Assalamu alaikum. Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to talk to you about the opportunity to come in the UK to train to become a qualified teacher and possibly get £30,000 worth of funding depending on your situation. So I'm Sarah, I'm a qualified teacher. I've been to live in the UK in 2018 and I have done my teacher training, so now I can share with you some of my knowledge. So usually people pay so much money to go and find a better life somewhere else and end up sometimes in a difficult position. They don't find a job or they don't have a legal status that help them and enable them to work at their full potential. So if you are interested into a career of teacher, this can be a very good opportunity that would enable you even long term to come and settle here in the UK on a permanent basis and even get money to be trained. So I'm giving you here a few figures from the government so you understand why they are recruiting teachers from abroad and why they are also giving fundings. So we see here, we're not going to stay too long on that document, but the 62% we see on that screen is the percentage of recruitment of teacher trainees, postgraduate teacher trainees, according to their target. So the target on a 100% basis, they could only recruit in 23-24 62%. The government could only recruit 62%. So they are really in need of teachers, and it depends on the subject as well. So here we can see, so in orange it's 24-25. So let's just have a look at the last year. So this is a percentage because 100% represents the target that the British government tries to reach in terms of recruitment of teachers. So, for example, let's look at the first line, art and design. The British government had a target of 100% of teachers recruited. They could only meet 66% of that target. Also, now let's have a look at some subjects. So, for example, when we go down, we are going to look at, for example, here, because it's linked to fundings, MFL, Modern Foreign Languages, they have only met 43% of the target they have given themselves. And in physics, only 31%. So that's very low compared to the targets. Because the application is sent to universities, so there are here two parties here. So when you're going to apply, it doesn't mean you're going to be taken because there's a need of teachers, but at the same time the government is in need of teachers. So you could fill this gap if you meet the requirements. So the benefits of that teacher training, and after that even, is that this is a sector in demand. So as I just told you, they are really in need of teachers. So this is a path, a professional path when you go for teaching, that you know you're going to be stable financially because there are so much jobs. And not only in the UK, even in the world in general, there are also figures that show from the UNESCO, for example, that show that there will be a very huge demand of teachers within the next 10-20 years. So in the UK, the teacher salary starts at £32,000. This is for outside London, and in London it's more than £40,000. That means on a full-time basis, that's the salary you will for sure receive when you start your career as a teacher. Also, another benefit is that after 3 years, you will be able to apply to get a permanent residence status, meaning after that you wouldn't need a visa to stay here. You would be able to live and have the right to work as a British national, which is a very good opportunity. So the first year you will be on a student visa, and after for 2 years you have to find a job that is sponsored. Then you will be on a skilled worker visa, and then after that, after you pass these 3 years, then you're free to stay. So that's really good. And then even after that, after some years, after 5 years, after 6 years, you will be able to apply even for citizenship. And another benefit, here I'm talking to international students, the longer holidays. So that's not really initially what we aim for when we want to go and live abroad. We want to work, but it's a very good benefit and advantage, because if you live abroad, your family is abroad, having longer holidays would enable you to go and visit them. So you don't have this lack of family and your surroundings. So you will have more time to go. So the QTS, so I have other videos where you can see what QTS is about. So QTS is a status, it's the qualified teacher status that is reachable through a training, a 10-month training, initial teacher training, ITT it's called. So it can be done without another course, which is a postgraduate certificate in education. This is a course that you do after a bachelor's degree. But for international students, I would say there are just a little bit of options, but most of them have to be done along a PGCE course, because the training will take place through a university. So it's a very solid training that I've done myself. So I know what I'm talking about. It's a very good training. You spend a lot of time in the classroom. You do school placements where you are in front of the students. You prepare your lessons. But it's also a very demanding training. So you have to be prepared for that. So with regards to the fees, for nationals, they are fixed. For any university you go to, as a national, it's £9,250. But for international students, the fees depend on the universities. So that's something that needs to be taken into account, obviously for financial reasons, but also strategically, it really needs to be taken into account. You can't just only try to go for the cheapest university. You really have to take into account a lot of different factors, especially if you aim to stay after the year of training. You really have to look long term. Also, last thing is that sponsorship is needed to stay as a skilled worker for 2 years. So after you, and this is linked to the previous point, is that the university you're going to apply for, it does happen that the schools you were placed during your training would recruit you afterwards. So it's good to consider this factor, because to stay in the UK after your year of training, you would need a sponsorship. You will need to be sponsored by a school or employer to be able to stay. So you will be staying as a skilled worker for 2 years, and then, as I said, you will be applying for permanent residence. So the fees vary depending on the university. So you will need to plan financially your stay in the UK. So now the interesting part is that you can be paid, let's phrase it like this, you can be getting a bursary to train. So when does it apply? It applies for 2 subjects, either MFL. MFL means modern foreign languages, and this applies only for French, Spanish, and German. So you would get £20,000 worth of bursary if you go for a teacher training that has as a specialty one of these languages. The other bursary international students can get is for physics, £29,000. That's a lot of money. That's really good. That can really fund you, that can cover your costs during your stay, that can cover your tuition fees. And on top of that, there's a scholarship that is, let's say, £2,000 extra. So either you get the bursary of 20,000 or 29,000, depending on the subject, or you apply for a scholarship. The bursary is guaranteed if you go through these path and you get an offer, and you can apply for a scholarship. So the scholarship will depend on your application, and it will also depend on the grades, for example, you had during your studies. There is also another possibility to get thousands of pounds extra, almost £5,000 extra. And this is very crucial, I would say, for some students who live in some countries, because when you apply for a visa, you need to prove that you have enough money to maintain yourself for the whole duration of the training. Okay, so we will go further in detail after this slide. So to become a teacher, you need definitely the equivalent of a bachelor's degree. Why am I not saying just bachelor's degree? Because it depends on the country you are from. So it has to be the equivalent of a bachelor's degree in the UK. So you have to make sure that if you have, for example, in your own country, a bachelor's degree in your own country, that it really equates a bachelor's degree of the UK. So there is an organization called ENIC-NARIC that you have to contact through their website to apply for a statement of comparability. Okay, so this statement of comparability is not must, but I would strongly advise you to get one. It costs £70, but you have to invest. If you want to plan to come and study here, that's going to be a life-changing plan. You have to invest some money. You can't just try to save, because whatever you spend today can bring you more money afterwards. Okay, so the bachelor's degree, you need to have it either in science. Doesn't necessarily have to be in physics if you want to apply for physics, but definitely in science. There are very slight possibilities to apply without a bachelor's degree in science, but that would depend on the universities. And also you would need to prove that you've done some physics maybe at A-level, during your A-level. Okay, so but this is very slight possibilities. Or for languages, you can either have a degree in the language, the target languages the target languages that I've mentioned, or if it's your mother tongue that you master this language, then you can also apply with any bachelor's degree. So let's say you are from Germany, or you are from Spain, or you're from Peru, Spanish is your first language. Even if you have a bachelor's degree in mathematics or psychology, you can still apply for the PGCE with a specialization in the language. So the process is quite, I would say, straightforward in the sense what I'm going to show you here, but it does have a lot of things, especially as an international student, a lot of things to provide, a lot of things to do. So it's quite, I would say, it's quite a process that can be lengthy. So you really need to be efficient on that, because it's much, much, much better if you apply as soon as possible. So you do your application on the website, the portal from UCAS. It's on UCAS, you apply. So you would have to provide some documents and a personal statement. So that's the main piece of your application, is your personal statement, where you really give details. It's not just a normal letter. You really have to go deeper in your reflection about what you want to teach, what is important for you in teaching, and talk about your experience, etc. Once you've applied, you are going to wait for an offer. So if an offer is made to you, so when you apply, you have to apply to the universities you have chosen, 4 at a time, and then the university has 1 month to give you an offer. Okay, so then they will most likely invite you for an interview. So this can be online. So all these need to be researched, because each university has its own way of proceeding. So let's say then you have you have been invited for an interview, you've been successful, you have an offer at the university. Now the university is going to give you a document, and then like closer to the date, which is now, let's say September 2026, you will apply for your visa and you will be able to get your visa. So now for the visa, you will need to prove you have a level of English sufficient to come for postgraduate studies. So that's a B2 level in terms of, this is the level they talk, which means it's, let's say, intermediate high level of English. And the other point, it depends on the country you are from. You need to prove that you have enough money to sustain yourself, maintain yourself for the duration of your course. So because you will be sponsored if you go, I mean, if you have own money, that's good. If you are relying on the bursaries or the scholarships, you will have to work out how much is left. So for example, you get £29,000 worth of bursaries, which is £2,900 a month, because it's a 10-month training. So once you've removed the fees for university, so let's say £1,400, then you see how much you have left, and then you can see if you can apply for London or outside London. So here I'll give you a little tip, is that first, this rule doesn't apply for all the countries. You have to prove you can sustain maintain yourself. It's not for all the countries. So mainly all countries of Europe, you don't have to prove this. If you're from China as well, for example, you don't need to prove. And there's a list of countries that you can check on the website of the government. If you just type student visa UK money, then you would be able to find the page, see if your country is one that is accepted in this rule. The other thing here I would say is that because there is another funding that you could get, as I was telling you, up to 5,000, this could, let's say, cover enough for you to be eligible to even stay in London. Why I'm saying that? Because there's a common preconception is that London is more expensive in terms of living. Obviously, it's more expensive in terms of accommodation, but to be honest, not necessarily. And as well for universities, some universities are not that expensive in London. Universities in London are not more expensive than the ones outside. Sometimes it's very random. It's very random. You have universities in London that the fees are £16,000, and you have universities outside of London and the fees are £25,000, even more. So you have to have a strategy when you calculate all this. I know it's very difficult to navigate the process. I know it because I've gone through that. But you will have to make the best decision for you, especially if you want to stay. So whenever you take a decision, it's not only for the year itself, it's also for afterwards. Okay, and don't just take into account the money. You have to take a lot of different factors that are going to make you successful for your stay, for your application, for your teacher training. So I'm giving you some tips here. I don't want the video to be too long. So I'm going to give you your tips and then leave it as that. So apply as early as possible. That is really an advice I would really strongly give you this advice, because first, as an international student, when you're going to look for training providers, you will have to tick the box that only accept sponsorship. So once you do that, you're going to see maybe the training providers will be divided by 10. So you have less options of training providers, and at the same time, there are a lot now, very much students applying from abroad, especially on these subjects like physics. So I wanted to add figures in this slide, but I thought I'm going to do another video about that because it's too long. But there's this last year and the year before, there was a very high amount of applications from abroad, meaning less training providers available for international students, more students applying. So you see there's a question of competition here, and the universities, how they recruit on a first, like the first one who apply, the first one who is served. So let's say someone applies and he is successful in his application. If the university has only 10 applications that they will take, or 15, once they fill these 10 seats, then it's finished. So if you apply in May, you give yourself less chance to be accepted. So, and the process takes some time. So try to be as efficient as possible. If you can get some help from, if you have people here for all the process, if you know people in the UK, try to get some help from them. And I wrote, or it's both, be proactive in your research to optimize your finance. So I know it's not that easy, because the problem that I faced myself, and I actually lost money, or I didn't optimize as much as I could have my finance during my teacher training. And because the thing is, you need to, when you do research, you need to know what you're looking for. And the thing is, when you don't know, but it's difficult to look for information. So, and the system is very difficult to navigate, because there's so much information, and sometimes we just skip one, and that was very important. Sometimes we don't go through the information. So yeah. So these are my advice, and apply for a statement of comparability. It's going to show that you want to apply and that you're ready to invest. So I know maybe for some countries, £70 can be a lot of money, but if you can have this, that would be better for you. And have a strong personal statement, as I was telling you. It personally took me 3 weeks to do my personal statement. I had to do it and redo it. So here as well, just really go further in your reflection, because just put yourself in the shoes of the one recruiting you. If he receives or she receives 20 letters, or 100 letters, or 1,000 letters with the same main sentences, that I want to teach, it's my passion, I've always loved teaching, you are not going to stand out. So yeah, that's my last advice for you. And this is to choose your university strategically for a long term, because as I told you, let's say you're doing your teacher training, you're very busy with your teacher training. If you have to start looking for a job, and wherever you have gone doesn't give much options in terms of visa sponsorship, in terms of, for example, if you teach, let's say, German, and maybe there aren't that many schools in the area that teach German, so that means you will have to look for a job maybe outside of the area you are in. Then that can be difficult, because it's going to be, you are full-time, so it's going to be difficult to be absent. So all this needs to be really strategically thought. So that's it. I hope you have learned from this video. My website, study2teach.com, where I give a bit more information about mainly what you could find for you is financially, how to plan financially, to see the cost of life here, so you have a rough idea of what you can expect. And also I give more information on my website if you need help with your application, for example. My Instagram, Study2Teach UK, in English and in French. And like if you liked, and share as well if you know anyone who could be interested.